Hi, my name is Jennifer Jean, and today I'm going to be talking about why you need to maintain a writing workshop group, but also why you need to supplement your writing workshop group. So the first thing that you should be considering about your writing workshop group and why you need it is that as a writer, you definitely need feedback. Absolutely. Whether you're in school, this is usually why people go to school for writing, is because they're looking for that feedback in a rather structured and official setting, which is fine. Let's say you're not in school and you are trying to pursue writing as a career or just grow as a writer, try to improve your craft. Definitely feedback is absolutely necessary. So I like to, when I talk to my students, use the example of trying to look at your body in a pocket mirror that's too close to your nose. So if you can imagine doing that, you can even try it out if you want. Put that pocket mirror right up to your nose and see how much of your whole body you see. Not much, I'm assuming, because it's illogical. You can't see a lot. So that's why we like to get feedback, because we can't see everything in our own writing. It's too close to us, okay? And sometimes we even have the phenomenon happen where we fall in love with our writing. That's an interesting phenomenon that I don't think is talked about too much. In my writing group, actually, we talk about that a lot. And it's really interesting. I'm really grateful that we've talked about that. But it's something I think, folks at the student or emerging or people coming back into writing, whichever stage you're at, you need to start thinking about that actually. Like, do I sometimes just fall in love with this? And it's not a bad thing to do that. I think it's great. You get that rush, that sense of satisfaction of completing something. After a long time, maybe it's some kind of content that you've been holding inside of yourself, and you finally got it out and you feel satisfied with it, but you're close to it. You're too close to it. So you need to have others take a look at it using an impartial, objective viewpoint, and let you know where your poem is not quite doing what you actually want it to do. For my part, as a teacher, I like to help my students or folks I talk to in my writing group, help them make their poems their best selves. Not into the self of the poet, but into the poem's best self, what the poet was trying to do with that poem. Or even if the poet didn't know what they wanted to do with the poem, because that happens a lot too. Something just happens and they're like, oh, this is amazing. And they fall in love with it in that way. With the feedback that I give, I like to say, well, what do you want this to become? And I try to give advice that fosters that end goal, whatever it happens to be, even if it's just a part of the poem becoming something that the writer wanted, or something that they see is possible in the poem and they want it to become that, even though they hadn't intended on it right away. So this is why feedback's important. And it also goes to, I'm going to bring this up a little bit later. Let's go to the second point, accountability. So when you have a writing group, you have other people who keep you accountable for writing and submitting. And I put here, submitting when we say we will, writing when we say we will. So when you have a writing group, you usually have an appointed time. The best writing group I've been in, it was the Salem Writers Group. That's when we were all meeting in person and my life wasn't so crazy. I was able to meet with those folks, and I have like an offshoot group right now from there that's a little less regular. But I noticed that when we reach out to each other, whether it's that big Salem Writers Group or the smaller offshoot group, we have a time that we say, okay, we're going to meet. And this is logic here. You say, we're going to meet at this time. And let's say you haven't been writing. This happens to me all the time. Everyone writes to everyone else and they say, okay, let's meet on next Tuesday. That's great, 7:30. And I'm like, oh, great. Yes, I want to do this. I have nothing. So I write towards that. I'm accountable to that time period and accountable to these people because I know they're great writers. I know they're fantastic people and they're willing to devote their time to looking at my work. And so I want to do my best. So I make sure I write something. And usually it's a really productive time when I haven't had anything. And then I know in a week I have to have something, or 2 weeks, something like that. So writing group is important for that. Otherwise, we just say we're going to write and then we don't. Life interferes. Life gets busy. So that's why writing groups are important in that way. And also to my second point here, sub-point in my second point, submitting when you say you will. That's important too, because in my writing group, especially this offshoot group that I've been a part of more, because again, my life's been in flux and our time together is more flexy, a little bit more fluid, and I like that. It works for me. We also ask each other, so where have you submitted? And we go through and we just announce it. Oh, I've been sending here, here, and here. And also, a little bit of trust happens. We build trust over time because we're giving each other feedback in this sort of objective way. That builds trust. And then we're accountable to time. We meet when we say we will. And if your writing group is the kind of writing group that sends work ahead of time, then, and you send back when you say you will, you get that work ahead of time, you prepare it, and you send your work when you say you will, and then you're ready during the meeting time, having read that work, that builds trust. And then the reason why I'm going to this trust thing is because then you can then share, about your submitting process maybe, and even where you've submitted. And then this last part, this is what I'm building to, where you've received some declines, otherwise known as rejections. You build the trust, you can share that with people. I know with my Salem Writers Group offshoot group, I tell them all the time where I've been rejected, and that's a lot of places. I have to say, a ton, all the time, sometimes over and over from the same places, and we also talk about our strategies too of submitting. So this accountability factor is just so helpful, again, to grow your writing career. Also, when you're talking about submitting, it helps you grow as a writer, even if you don't think of yourself as a so-called professional writer, whatever that is. It helps you to, again, have other kinds of goals. Deadlines help you write towards something and finish something somewhat. This has helped me be productive, but I just want to throw in this caveat. This process has also helped me in a questionable way to send out work before it's finished. So be careful of that. I don't know if you want to be doing that so much. Let's go to this third point. Having a writing workshop group helps you build community. I know a ton of poets in my writing community, the offshoot group, the Salem Writers Group, the bigger Boston area, I'm in Boston area community, the greater Massachusetts community, etc., who are a part of the poetry community because of the community portion more so. And they've shared this openly, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's fabulous. That's amazing. That's great. The more communities you have, the better. The more kinds of people you know, and you improve your life in that way. And good all around. So also, this is the other reason to join a writing workshop group for the sake of community is who are you going to celebrate? You have some other people that you can celebrate their wins with. We talked about submitting. You don't always get declines, you get acceptances, which is to say wins, opposite of rejection, acceptances. And you can help people celebrate that. The more the merrier. That's always great to generate in your life, in a life that you're trying to build that's full of joy. You want to celebrate other people. I put that first. As well, who's going to celebrate with you? You get into, your bucket list magazine, and then you look around and you're by yourself. Yay. I mean, I guess your audience might celebrate, but we rarely come in contact with our audience, especially now we're in 2020. It's very hard to come in contact with our audiences because some of our community is actually cut off. So even more than ever, as has been said so much lately, more than ever, we need community. So however you can generate that, in person, we used to be able to do that, but now, doing this online more often is what's happening. So now let's talk about why you need to supplement your workshop group. So I mentioned different kinds of workshop groups that people have. They have, an in-person group that's regularly meeting, every second Tuesday, something like that. There's the more fluid group, which I call my offshoot group, where, we just say, hey, send out an email to a bunch of people we know and trust and say, hey, let's get together on this day. And it's not a regular time. And sometimes with either of those groups, you could send your work ahead of time and have people prepared to talk about your work. Or you can just do cold readings during those groups. I've done that tons of times. And that takes a certain kind of reader and writer to be able to do that. So you want to make sure you're with people that can do that, want to do that, or want to do the send ahead. Not everybody can do that. They can do the cold reading. So, you got to negotiate these things. Absolutely have that workshop group, but also consider supplementing your workshop group. And this is so important now when we're separated from each other and it's so hard to meet. We meet online via Zoom, but things are even more in flux. So even with my offshoot group, which is a influx group, we have trouble meeting too. So if you're on the go, you need to find these supplements so that you can, I put here, keep the flow of feedback. You want to do that, okay? You want to have your workshop group giving you feedback, but maybe join some Facebook groups that people, are creating in order to just give some quick comments. If you're looking for some comments there, or maybe someone who, especially now that we're in the pandemic age and reaching out, nationally and internationally, maybe you can reach out to a person that wouldn't normally be part of your offshoot group or your main group, whatever workshop group you've created or are considering creating. It's just one other person. You can keep that flow of feedback going, because you want to keep that going. Don't want to be creating your work and then having no voices on it. It will, you'll go back and degenerate, if you don't mind me using that word, into just looking too closely, I don't know if you can see my little face there, looking too closely at the mirror and not seeing your whole body and being able to address, what the heck you're wearing that day and if you mismatch your socks, etc. to go with that metaphor. Okay, so also when you supplement your workshop group, you keep the flow of accountability. So there are all kinds of organizations out there and even some magazines out there that have prompts that they send out. I'm thinking of two right now. I know The Common has a set of prompts that they send out. There are numerous other journals too that have a series of prompts that I'm blanking on them, but look them up. Look up your favorite journals. Usually the bigger ones have this, where they have a series of prompts that they send out through their emails or their newsletters. Oh, I just thought of another one. Diane Lockwood, she runs Terrapin Press. I get her writing prompts through her newsletter. So it's not a Terrapin Press newsletter, but it's Diane Lockwood. So you can look her up on Facebook or whatever and sign up for hers, or like I said, check out your favorite journals to see if they run them. Another one that I'm thinking of, there's Two Sylvia's Press. They run the online writing retreat. They did this long before pandemic hit, I think because they wanted to reach out to a national audience, and you send your poems into them, and then they hire guest critiquers. I've been one of their guest critiquers, and we give your poems heavy attention. So that keeps you accountable, because there's prompt that you're answering and then a date that you have to send it by. And then also the guest critiquer, I can tell you, as I said, I've been one. We have a date, a deadline, and we send you the poem back, and you know when you're going to receive it. So then you know when you can start working on it. So that keeps the accountability flowing outside of the workshop group. Also, you can hire people. I mean, invest in your writing. Why not? Spend a little money. Look at all the writers that are out there that take a look at poems. I know I do it. I offer a service through my Patreon page. You can see the picture here, the little Jennifer Jean Patreon. Where I look at a poem and I give extensive feedback. There's varying prices for this, varying levels of commitment from the person that you're hiring. You just find what works for you to get that feedback, but also to keep you accountable. Also, keeping the flow of community. As I've said, Facebook groups can help you do this. And maybe you're not sending them your poems, but you're just sending out, hey, I've been accepted. There are plenty of groups out there online. Look them up. I'm not going to suggest all of them. I know I was invited to several that are private groups. I don't want to shout out those. I don't know, how they choose who's in what, but they're out there. You can just, again, do a Facebook search. Easy peasy. But you can also do something a little bit more local and see if there's anything in the university nearby, or maybe there's a writing center that's near you or in your region. Each region sort of has one. I know in my region, New England, Grub Street doesn't have a very big poetry community. I'm talking most about poetry, here, but they're very useful, and they have a place where people can come together and create community online. And also there's, I know in Minneapolis there's one, the Loft. I think there's something in the, I'm suddenly blanking on all these, but look in your region. I know there's something in the Southwest. I know in San Francisco, where I went to school, there's San Francisco State University has a center. There are all these different centers. I'm missing all of them, but look them up. Take charge of your writing life and supplementing your workshop group. Look it up yourself. And as well, don't forget, you need to fill the well to incite the creativity that fuels your productivity. That's why you've got to do this. Some people I know, some writers I've seen in these groups that I've joined, is that they feel a little bit depressed because they can't meet their workshop group. This is, a perfect reason why you need to find ways to supplement your group. You need to connect to others for that feedback, connect to others to create that accountability, connect to others to create that community, and also connect to others to find ways to fill the well. Reading a book of poetry, so for poets, is a way to fill the well, but also attending readings. That's an excellent way, and there are tons of new writers you can discover now because of all the online readings that are happening. So definitely attend the popular ones if that helps you to feel like you're filling the well, but you definitely want to do the thing where you look at what else is out there, explore beyond your usual boundaries. Check out people you've never heard of and attend those readings and buy those books and fill the well that way. And also, there are new open mics that are national so that you can introduce your work to others. That fills the well too, knowing that there's a readership, there are people, but it also creates community. I'm just scrolling down a little bit here so you can see the pictures. I put the picture of my Patreon page right there next to this other picture of a book I want to recommend for a way to, fill the well and keep your productivity going. Both these things are very good. I'm going to say a little bit about my Patreon page. The lowest amount to subscribe is $3. I really would love to see you there. I want to create a great chat community and want to keep it fun, exploring poems and choices people make in poems so that it helps you as a writer know more tools that you can use for your writing. I also want to recommend here the Daily Poet, day-by-day prompts for your writing practice. I mentioned prompts that you can get through your email, but I also want to recommend book prompts because a book like this, The Daily Poet, is literally what it says. There's 365 prompts right in there. This is Two Sylvia's Press release, edited by Kelly Russell Agadon and Martha Solano. It's fantastic. It's like little explanation of something about that day. I think on holidays they try to give it the prompt, a theme having to do with that holiday. It's excellent. You can find tons of these kinds of books. So definitely supplement your workshop group. Keep that flow of feedback going outside of the group. Keep that flow of accountability going, having many avenues of accountability. Keep the flow of community going. In person is not always possible right now. You can definitely make all these three things happen for you. So next I want to talk a little bit more about those in-person writing groups and a little bit more fine-tuned detail about supplementing your writing workshop groups, those in-person or online writing workshop groups. But first, if you're watching this on YouTube, please take time now to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell below. In the description section for this video, you can find links to my Patreon, which I've mentioned, but also to my Twitter, Instagram, and website. On Instagram, you can find links for all of these things in my bio. All my exclusive poetry and creative community related content, including the extended version of this video, is available to patrons on my Patreon page. As I mentioned before, it's to subscribe is as low as $3, and then more goodies as you go on up the line. Very soon, I'm going to make this content available on Locals. Stay tuned for that. In the meantime, let's get started.